Hey, what's going on, loungers? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mason T, and I am a 20+ year importer and product developer. So today I want to kind of define the parameters of exactly whenever I make a critique video, what am I looking for? Who do I go for? Who do I bust? And what the channel is really like all about, okay? So I'm going to do a little split screen here and then show you a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes. So recently, I get a lot of people asking me to talk about guys like Chris at Peak. And the reasoning that I get for this is, he's putting out like, crazy numbers and stuff like that. I don't really agree with it, or I don't believe what he's doing. Right. But this stuff is very, very opinionated. And whenever somebody makes their claims and stuff like, I did 40,000, I did 100,000, I did 5,000 last week, et cetera, right? I'm not going through their bank accounts. I can't prove it. This is just what their claims are. And then it'll just be a very opinionated piece. That is not what Pegasus goes for. I go for things where there are airtight arguments, where it's a very definitive thing. That's what makes me so annoying, because I make airtight arguments. There's a lot of things that you just can't fight me about, because you can't go around saying 2 + 2 = 5. Because it's not, and we all know that it's not. You just don't like the tone that I use, that's all. But here's the problem. The reason why my tone is the way it is because we're talking about business, and business is a lot of people's livelihoods. And for people who are just doing this for fun as a hobby and they don't really need this money, well, you don't have the same skin in the game as people who are trying to scrape by. So therefore, I don't appreciate those kinds of opinions, as opposed to people who really need solid information. So, if somebody is making a hype channel or something like that, yeah, it's your opinion versus their opinion. It's he said, they said, or whatever. I'm not going to pick on this stuff, because there's really no definitive space where you're boxed in the corner where, hey, you really should not have said that. So Chris at Peak, I'm not going to come after something like this just because some people are in disbelief. You see what I'm saying? But yet can't really prove it. So we're not going to go there. Okay, the next one, right? I get a lot of requests for Commonwealth Picker, okay? A lot of people, I don't know, whatever. Look, when you're popular enough, there's always going to be a group of people who don't like you, but I don't make videos just because you don't like someone, right? So I have combed through Kevin's stuff before. And to be perfectly honest, what I think about him, he's just a guy with a camera walking around in circles talking about his life. There's nothing wrong with that. When you look through all of his thumbnails, right? See, I do, watch a little bit of his stuff, and it's just him saying, she collected her whole life, sold it all in seconds. And it's just a man's camera and his experience, He's a vlogger. He just tells you what's going on with his life. It's all anecdotal. Who is anybody to say it's right, it's wrong, it's real, it's fake? It's just not there. So what am I looking for? What hits my radar, right? Okay. It's got to be about education, because education is what really, really steers people down the wrong road. So if you start to break out whiteboards, or there's like some kind of a spreadsheet, if you start putting out strange ideologies, or you're talking about the algorithm where that's definitively not how the algorithm works, you've hit my radar. So I look at different kinds of thumbnails as well as their titles, and honestly, nothing triggers my radar of Kevin's work. And that's why I've never really spoke about the guy, except for that one time in passing where he mentioned that he got like, a lot of people unsubscribing to him because of something that he said. But that's the people who unsubscribe to him, their opinions about stuff. There was no argument from, an airtight, like, mathematical stance or an ideology thing or whatever. It's just not there. And that's why I've never made a video on the guy, and despite all the requests that I get. Now let's move on to Justin Resellers. Justin Resellers and I have become cool, and we're kind of friends, actually. But I will tell you, like, as you scroll here, right, you can see like all the red that's on my screen, meaning that, like, I've reviewed his stuff before. I have sat in a lot of Justin's classes. And when you look at the thumbnails, it is a super educational channel, right? So the way that I feel about these educational channels is that I personally should be able to just come into any one of your classes, sit in the back of the room, and then listen to what you have to say. And if I disagree with something, it depends on how egregious it is. So, there are things that I know what I have to say is just kind of nitpicky. I know where, there's just my own personal disagreements. And for that reason, I don't make videos about it. It has to be outlandish. It has to be 2 + 2 = 5 before I make a video and I say, hey, look, you can't say that. And this is why, up until now, every pushback comment about me is what? It's not what he said, it's the way that he said it. But look, on a human to human level, if we're talking about like music, movies, hobbies, and stuff like that, right, I'm just as, fun as the next guy. But once you move into the business territory, this is my livelihood that we're talking about. I have full skin in business, okay? So there's no nonsense here. I'm going to be very firm about what I'm saying. And if you're talking out your neck, I'm going to call you on it because you certainly don't know what you're talking about, right? But if it's just like a little kind of sort of thing, and I don't care to shine a spotlight on everything that I hear. So let's just call it what it is, right? I've sat in on Justin's classes many times, right? I don't agree fully with everything. I disagree with maybe around like, if I had to put a number on it, maybe 3%, 2% of what he says. And my disagreement is just, from my own personal stance. It's nothing for me to make a video about. All the rest of the stuff, I nod along. Very solid, very good. And that's why I went ahead and said, bing, Justin gets a pass. That's why it is what it is. But make no mistake that despite my good relationship with Justin, it's not like I've never tried to bust the guy. It's just that he's never said anything bust-worthy. That's all. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something else over here, right? Of this particular video, right? I hideously disagree with this video. And yet you've never seen me do a video on Cosmic Heather either, okay? To prove it, I'll show you over here. 4 months ago, I left this really long comment with timestamps and everything that, definitively is trying to explain that, like, her message in the story versus what actually happens based on her own testimonial makes no sense. For example, I said, you said about like, thinking small is the way to go, yada, yada, all that stuff, which is, I'm not against that ideology. The problem is that when she showed her numbers, and if you crunch the numbers, they're all pretty high ASP stuff. So the title of this was, how her entire reselling business is built on this one rule, which is all about flipping the smaller stuff. And therefore, we kind of like went back and forth. She said something that really kind of did not address what I said. So then I said something again, and it kind of just ended there. The point is that even so, Pegasus still did not make a video on this. So I want you guys to really sink in, right? What it takes for me to say, no good, I have to make a video on this. So even though I have about like 20 critique videos, you see what makes the list and what actually does it. The amount of stuff that I actually let slide and, I say, forget about it. Look, this is just one person's opinion, or this is not something that you could definitively debate and, a hill that you can die on. I don't make those videos at all, actually. So today is actually going to be another Cayley Elaine video. Okay. And you guys are going to actually be pretty shocked at this. I think that what Cayley had to say in this video is fantastic, actually, because the truth is this: I don't come at people on a personal level. This is all about holding a community accountable. So when somebody says something good, they deserve just as much praise as when they are called out for something bad that they say. Because look, you can't just like, okay, when they say something bad, I go after them and then that's that. But then when they do something good, like, you don't highlight that either. Otherwise, you don't incentivize people to be a good person. You only demonize people, and that's not right. So this one is her just talking about AI, just straight up AI, right? And I want to play for you just a little bit about the way that you're supposed to use AI before we get into this particular video, because a lot of people need to understand that AI in itself is an adaptive language tool and it doesn't actually think for you. And that's exactly where people get stuff twisted. I've had many comments on my channel of people who just posted exactly what their chat GPT said. And therefore, it puts you at a very big disadvantage and comes out, just agreeing with you no matter what. So it's really not something that you want to put into the public eye, because ultimately you need to be the one to still proofread your own chat GPT. It is an adaptive language tool that is an AI assistant. So essentially what that means is that it's a glorified autofill. So if you ever put something into the search engine and then it tries to fill in the rest, that's what ChatGPT actually is.
Exactly right. And this is one of the most misunderstood things about AI in general. ChatGPT doesn't think, it predicts. It's not running a line of reasoning or forming opinions. It's assembling the most statistically likely continuation of text based on its training data and your prompt. That means it can sound smart without being right. The model has read billions of pages, so it can reproduce the shape of good reasoning, the tone, rhythm, even structure, but not the process of independent thought. It lacks epistemic grounding. It doesn't know what's true. It estimates what's probable in a given context. If that context includes a lot of misinformation or ambiguous phrasing, it'll happily reproduce that. It doesn't have stakes. A human forms an argument with intent to persuade, defend, or test an idea. The AI doesn't care if the argument wins or loses. It just outputs what looks coherent. So if someone uses ChatGPT to make their argument, what they're really doing is outsourcing rhetoric, not reasoning. The result might sound confident, but can collapse under real scrutiny because it was never built from first principles or verified facts. AI can help you structure, clarify, and sharpen ideas, but it can't originate conviction or replace understanding. It's a drafting assistant, not a mind. You're absolutely right. If you depend on it to think for you, you'll likely regret it. But if you use it to extend your thinking, like having a mirror that reflects your logic back at you, that's when it becomes powerful. You want a public argument that survives the light of day? You've got to write it, bleed into it, then use the AI to tidy the mess afterward, not the other way around.
Okay, so we're going to watch a little bit of what Cayley Lane has to say about AI.
And here's 3 reasons why I don't like it. Number 1, it is pulling from flawed data. Whenever you ask AI a question or you prompt it to do something for you, such as generate a listing, give you keywords, give you pricing, give you titles, unfortunately, it's scouring the internet for what information is currently available. This could be on multiple places or wherever you tell it to. But even if you tell it to go to a specific platform to get the information from, such as eBay or Poshmark, it's still pulling from flawed data because humans are flawed. We make mistakes. If you go searching through all of the listings that I don't like,
it's pulling from the human data, and humans make mistakes. So at best, all it does is reorganize all that stuff. I want you guys to listen to the second point that she has to say.
Which is that you have to know when it's wrong. Because it's pulling from flawed data, you have to know when it's giving you wrong information.
Very good.
The only way to know if it's giving you wrong information is to first educate yourself and have that data in the back of your mind. You need to be capable of doing everything that you're asking AI to do before you ask AI to do it. Because if you don't, how do you know if it's right or it's wrong? I've tested out AI for...
Right. You have to be the one to proofread exactly what ChatGPT does, et cetera, et cetera. And then I want you to listen to the third point that she is about to make over here. All good in this video.
Number 3 is it's not actually saving you time. It's a facade. It's an illusion of saving time. Because you're having someone else or something do something else for you does not always mean that it is the most time effective. How long is it actually taking you to incorporate AI into your business? And could you be faster just listing it on your own? So those are the 3 reasons why I really don't like the idea of...
Right, because ultimately the idea is that if you're going to have the AI do something for you, you have to be able to trust it in order to save time. But then if you have to come back and proofread it, then how does this save any time? Even if the AI is right, the time that I needed to make sure that, yeah, double check that it was correct, that's where it gets very, very difficult. This is not the same as having it write thousands of lines of code and then you quickly skim over it to make sure like all the bugs are worked out. That's very, very different. So when it's a very small task and then you're getting ChatGPT to do it or other some kind of AI, you might as well have done it yourself. Now, there's a fourth argument that she makes over at 8 minutes that I highly recommend that you guys watch it yourself for this full video, right? I'm not going to play it because it's very long, but essentially, she talks about, how she runs the AI in her own business, as well as the idea of the erosion of competitiveness. So what does this mean? It means that like, if people all start using AI, and then the AI is just going to go ahead and make like these default types of listings, right? I'm going to say in my notes over here, I wrote down that this is arguably her strongest insight, which is the homogenization kills the edge. Once everybody's listing starts to sound the same, the algorithm no longer has clear signals of expertise, uniqueness, or quality, and everybody suffers a quiet drop in performance. So honestly, this video of Cayley Elaine, very good take. I thought her observations, very good. I like it a lot. And for that reason,
good job.